Hi everybody, I'm in Guerneville, California today, and it's a town about 75 miles north of San Francisco. It's primarily a gay resort town, especially in the summertime. It is to San Francisco what you could say Fire Island is to the gay men in New York City. There's a very large bear festival, you could say, in the summer, gay fair. For those of you not, in the gay lifestyle or don't know much about it, a bear is an older, usually, widely built, hairy man. There's all these sort of categorizations in the gay world, you could say, for categorizing men. The bear is probably a subsect of the daddy group, and then under bear you would have other sub categories like otter, cub, things like that. It's very strange, but it's also very telling. I've often kind of compared all these groupings and labels and categories and subcategories. It reminds me of sort of like an apothecary, cabinet in the old days, where depending on your ailment, the pharmacists or whoever would go into these different drawers, and you had all these different categories of things. And looking back, everything is hindsight is always 20/20, because when I was here and involved in this life, everything seemed very normal, very run-of-the-mill. Nothing seemed odd or bizarre, even though I was involved in the most sort of insane, crazy situations. Now that I'm, 20 years later, over 20 years later, especially events here ring very true to me. When you have these bear festivals, and you have these older men, usually, masculine, macho, I guess, would be the way to describe them. And you would see their followers, or people attracted to them, or their worshippers or devotees or whatever. And they were, always these smaller men, sometimes these, what we would call a twink, these very young, sickly, malnourished looking boys that were with these men. And it was, at the time, it didn't seem unusual. Now, this phenomena goes on unabated. It's extremely pathetic and sad. When you look at gay male desire, attraction, in a certain context that I'm talking about here, in terms of woundedness, I think it reveals much. I've used this technique, if you want to call it that, especially when I talk to men who maybe are not experienced or are not in the gay life, or have never really been in the gay life. And I ask them, or we talk about what types of pornography that they look at, what are they attracted to, what do they desire? Because a lot of times, I would say most of the time, the desire will, or the attraction will reveal the wound. What is it? What type of wound is it? Now, in terms of these young boys that you see here, these young men, or sometimes maybe not so young, but physically more diminutive or weaker men that are attracted or cling on to these, bear types that you see here in Guerneville, it reveals a very deep insecurity and a longing for masculinity and male companionship and really for male affirmation that they never got. When you receive those things, typically from your father as a boy, it creates, a complete man. It creates a mature man. It can create a man that is formed, and of course is not desiring the maleness because they have that contained within them. So therefore they are attracted naturally to females because they are the other. When you do not receive that affirmation, security, love, whatever you want to call it, as a boy, it's unfulfilled. There's an emptiness and a wound there. Now, the way in which gay men try to solve this issue or fulfill it or resolve it is through sex with other men, because they feel that is how they reach completion in their maleness. And actually, I have to say, it does work. The problem is it's a very temporary sort of fix, or it's a very short-lived feeling of completeness. It goes away really as soon as the sex act is over. And what drives frustration in gay men is that you think that you have finally found the perfect guy. That's why you have these sort of bear conventions here, or in the city you have, leather or domination sort of fairs with Folsom and things like that, because you're looking for this sort of archetype that you are attracted to. You see that in a lot of homoerotic art done by gay men. That's symbolized by Tom of Finland in the 70s, who did these hyper-masculine images of men. And so in the gay life, you will congregate into these sort of groupings where, I'm a bear, I'm a daddy, I'm a twink, I'm an otter, I'm a cub, yada, 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 so on and so on. And, you're always looking for that perfect male. It's very much what drives gay porn, because you have a lot of times a very, very hyper sort of masculine man, kind of like those Tom of Finland men, come to life, and inevitably they always group that person with a smaller, weaker, usually younger guy, and then you have this sort of sick joining. I mean, it's come to full fruition now in 2015, because there's this great proliferation of daddy porn, where you have these role-playing between father-son, of course fake father-son, and these situations, and a lot of times filmed right here in Guerneville. Guerneville's a big locale for gay porn production. So when you find what you believe is that perfect, when you find what you think is that perfect man that's going to fulfill you, of course you have sex, and during the sex it's wonderful, and all those sort of whatever you've got going on from childhood, men don't like me, I'm a sissy, I'm a fag, I'm not good enough, it sort of is resolved for a short period of time. Afterwards, it's like, whoa, here I am, he's gone, and it's over. And you start looking again. This sort of quest, the search just, goes on rewind, and you do it all over again. And you're still unfulfilled. Now, the critique of this theory that I have is that, or that other people have had as well, is that, this is primarily something that you see phenomenon with young men, which is true. Because, I very much went through that in my late teens and early 20s. What inevitably happens when you get older is there's sort of this bizarre metamorphosis that goes on. You were once the twink, the son. You start sort of transferring into the daddy role, or the bear role, or whatever you want to call it. And because now you have younger guys coming in with all those same weird insecurities that you had when you were younger, and they're looking up to you. So it's sort of a weird shift goes on, and you start, and I did this as well, and I did it here in Guerneville. You start, reworking your relationship with your father, with your biological father, and you take on this weird role of a father, and someone that grooms, and someone that initiates these younger boys into the gay life, just as you were done, just as happened to you, and it's equally unfulfilling, and it again leaves you looking again. And then what you start to find is that guys, especially after they get past their 30s, you have this sort of gay death in the homosexual world. If you're not, it's becoming even worse now if you're not in your early 20s, in my time it was if you were kind of in your 40s. Now you see guys checking out and pairing up a lot of times. Many times with gay, monogamous couples, you will find a great age disparity still. You'll find a younger, more experienced guy with a younger guy, sometimes 10 and a more year difference. So a lot of these same roles transfer in, if you want to call it the top-bottom role too. You'll see that carry on into the relationship. And a lot of times you do see, guys really become more insular for a while as a couple. And then, this boredom sets up and things are not being resolved within the relationship, and it opens up rather quickly to include a third, a fourth, another couple, several couples, and then a lot of times it just opens up completely. And that is because the issues of childhood, of when you were a boy, are not resolved with that relationship between two men. There's not the harmony there that you're going to have between a man and a woman, which are the opposites, but when joined, create something new and beautiful. What you have is two still very hurt and searching men with that, out of real necessity, desperation, loneliness, have come together and form this bond. But nothing new is created. Again, what you just have are two lost souls. That's why this place is always just so sad for me, because no one finds peace here. What they find is something very temporary and very much attached to this world. Nothing transcends our existence. We always stay gay here. We always stay here as boys needing another man. We never grow. I didn't become who I was meant to be till I left the gay life, till I walked out of it. And then I could finally figure out who God created me to be. and I knew it wasn't gay, and I knew it wasn't a man that had to be with another man, because I had been healed of that. And when you're healed of it, you're complete and you're fulfilled, and you just don't need this other stuff. You don't need to be hugged by a bear. You don't need to feel what it is to have a man next to you. You don't need it anymore. It's not required, because what was lacking here is no longer lacking. And that's a different journey for everyone. But it starts with admitting that you've been hurt and you need to be healed. God bless you all.